Shalom, Salama, Siemi, Shalom. Greetings to all of my Israelite brothers and sisters from around the world. Whether you are the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the house of Israel, or you are grafted in under the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach. Who we commonly know, we commonly refer to as Jesus Christ. So, family, I just want to give a shout out to Minister Yakoba for Teo Ministries and Pastor Kelly for last night's broadcast on syncretism. Syncretism. And really, one of the things that I wanted you all to be aware of, and it's kind of funny because you can get caught up in a lot of information with this because it was literally about maybe less than 3 or 4 years ago that it was a concerted effort. The Pope wanted to put everything, back under his control. It was all going to go to Rome. And this is why there was an effort. This effort was really an ongoing effort, that was hindered by the cookie. And I want you to bring this to have this come to your attention that the Pope had visited UAE and was trying to have some of the Islamic scholars go on out to Rome, and they did have that, and he visited with them in the Middle East. This was a big deal. Because what it did show was that the foundations of religion for man is made under those tenets, those principles. Because what has been established isn't anything by the Most High. It has not. What we've always seen was just a usurping of what was given to them because, as I had said, our demise was their rise, which allowed them to be in the position that they're in. And that position of validation. And the validation just simply occurs that they could do anything they want because you want to know why? We had been given to our enemies, which had allowed for whatever they were doing. I'm trying to explain this thing to you, family. This is why Christ was saying, have we not healed in your name? Have we not, done signs and wonders? And he says, away from me, I never knew you, because you have to understand they're operating under a different authority, just like with Balaam, operating under a different authority. Yes, you may be using the name of Jesus or Yahushua HaMashiach, but you're going through the back door. You're being a thief. You're being a robber about it. You want to know why? Because listen, family, they can't pray these plagues away. Everything that they're trying to have, cursed is the man that trusts in his own arm. They're now, everything is being unraveled for them. It's being unraveled for them. And so before I get started, before there's a lot of y'all in here, let me go ahead and do some shout outs real quick. Shelter 51, Ezra Gabar, Shalom, Equinox Walker, Salama, Anita Williams, Shalom, Saint Moon, Shalom, Stephanie McMillan, Shalom, Sonia Johnson, Shalom, Regina Palmer Williams, Watching and Waiting, Yark Biel, Shellen Robinson, Marilyn Lumar, Elsie the Prodigal Son, Shalom and Salama, B1 Queensland, Shalom, Rio Morgan, Shalom, Coco G, Malin Irizarry, Lynn, Shalom, Joy 31608, Shalom. Yeah, I still haven't seen any notifications. So y'all gonna have to deal with that. Sorry. Dale J, Shalom, Kathleen, Shalom, Ophies the Hebrew Chalmers, Aerospike, Shalom. Aerospike, I think that this will probably be in the capacity of what of what your avenue is. So you'll see how this thing breaks down. Ophies the Hebrew Chalmers, Shalom. Garth Yehuda Andrews, Shalom. Terrence Campbell, Shalom. Ninja Firewolf, Shalom. Soulfully Sowing Seeds, Kathleen, Shalom. Yolanda Howard, Shalom. Dale J. Tracy Smith. Tracy T. Yeah, let me get back to it. Jay High Styles, Shalom. Gary Doss, Shalom. Okay. And Natalie Manning, Shalom. I think I am caught on up. I know everybody's coming on through. so it's kind of funny because the way I've gone about this, really not the way I've gone about this, the way that the Most High is really having me go about this. Let me just tell you this. One-on-one, the Most High and I, we butt heads. We butt heads. Because I'm trying, look, listen, I'm not in the best situation. I'm really not. But what he does, look, I had to understand, he took me out of my comfort zone, because when you are in your comfort zone, you're not inclined to work. That's just us. Fancy Lola, Yah bless, Shalom. And you're not inclined to work as hard for him because you're really trying to steady yourself in a system that is really contrary and circumspect to what the Most High is working in. So it's hard because when we go through these things, when he calls us up, when he says there's a word, there's a message, Jennifer Bassett, Shalom. We don't want to, oh no, I don't want to do that. No, I just want to be comfortable. I really do. I want to be comfortable. I want to get back to this. You let me know in this awakening. You let me know in this Exodus when it's time to go. I'll pack up everything, and I'll do what you need me to do. People are going to be knocking on the door. Everything's going to be good, and I'll just go off from there. Gregory Goodman, Shalom. Ariel, the Last Prophet, Shalom. But the problem is, during this time, there are people that were called for his purpose. Let me explain. There are people that were called for his purpose. This was not my purpose. My purpose, I thought, okay, well, you want to know what? I'll work on my doctorate degree. I'll work on getting a job. I'll work on doing this thing. I'll do this here. I'll do that there. And I'm good. But I had to understand that I had to get pulled away from things. It's difficult to be pulled away from your family to serve the Most High. It's difficult. Nobody would want to do that. Who would endure? Not many people. Not many people. Well, couldn't you just do that? And could you? No, it doesn't work like that. Because I'm telling you, there is a cutoff that he does because there's a purpose for everything that goes on. Some people, they just say, you know what, I'm not going to fulfill my purpose. And guess what they do? They just check on out. Well, it was too hard. It was too this. It was too that. Nothing was going right for me. Nothing could do. I couldn't do anything that I wanted to do. Nothing was happening for me. Well, what happened to such and such? They just fell off the mat. Why they fall off the mat? Because they didn't want to do what the Most High had called them to do. It became too much for them. And you never hear from these folks again. Shalom, Alberta Henderson. This was never a walk in the park. When people say, oh yeah, this awakening was great. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't, not really. It's great to understand the outcome of what this awakening is, not to walk through this awakening. Let me explain this to you. Not to walk through this awakening. Because as we had read Daniel 12, 1 through 4, and really it was that third chapter, or excuse me, that third verse, is that, there were many troubles and many hardships. I don't like the paraphrase, so let me just bring that chapter up. And then I'm going to get back to where I was going to go to in Revelations, because this all ties up. And this is Daniel chapter 12, verse 1. And I'm just going to read the second half of it. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time, thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written. Here's the thing, family. That's Daniel 12 and 1. There shall be a time of trouble. We understand, see, you have to understand their perspective. Their perspective is there was no 400 years. See, you know they can't admit the 400 years, because when they admit the 400 years, then they have to admit judgment. And if they have to admit judgment, then they have to admit that there's a certain people being judged. Because that means, here's the logical steps. These folks they know. It's just being disingenuous. It's being logically disingenuous. That's all that means. It's not a heart problem. It's just a problem of being genuine. But when you're being disingenuous, that's also being deceptive and deceitful. You cannot love the Most High and hate your brother. This is what they do. And if you don't understand that they do that, that's why they had to issue all of these different decrees within the Southern Baptist Conference, because they didn't want to admit this. We're not doing anything. They're doing it. They're running scared. They're the ones that are trying to reconcile everything because they know that when we talk, our words are power because our words condemn, and they don't like condemnation because condemnation for us on them is real. And not necessarily in the spiritual apparatus, but also in the physical. Ivy Lamar Salama. They get scared. Oh, you know what? They're going to do this. They're going to do that. We don't do. And then when they realize that we don't have to do anything except for open our mouths and testify, that condemnation literally turned into what they're seeing right now. Our condemnation on them is now being manifested through what? Global warming, because they knew that this was coming. The powers that be understood exactly what was happening. They would always say, well, don't you want to get back? Don't you want to feel comfortable? No. Because you want to know why? Because this is what the word says. Now you're starting to understand the dynamics that's occurring, because the syncretism that's there is saying, look, our system is about to fall. So therefore, we need to form back up like Voltron. I need to get my left arm, my right arm. I need to get everything. Because why? Because our system is now the kingdom. We were split apart. Now you're going to start the ultimate split, because you have to remember everything that transitions a kingdom is that the existing power structures have to fall. Think about this. For all the construction-minded people, y'all's chosen CJ, shalom. What do they do if you've already built something that's collapsing? That you've already built something and the foundations were messed up. You couldn't save the building. You couldn't you couldn't do the repairs and the renovations. The contractor said, look, I did everything that I can do. The foundation shot. What happens? Well, you always see this, and I still remember this a couple years ago when they did the demolition for the new stadium in Atlanta. I'm not in Atlanta, but it was a big deal because that was the old Falcon Stadium. You know, they turned into I think the new Mercedes-Benz thing. But you saw that what they had to do, they had to have the system implode on itself. And when the system had imploded on itself, then the opportunity to dig out all the rubble, to clear everything, to fill in the land, to grade everything, to pack it on in, to get down to the bedrock, to shore up the foundations. Robert Haynes, shalom. What does that do? Well, now look, I had to reinforce this, because I need to now make this next kingdom, this next situation, this next disposition, this next era, whatever you want to call it, we're going to solidify this and we're going to enforce this even harder. It's no longer the Babylonian kingdom. Babylon is done. This was the last bit of Babylon. Now we're into the beast kingdom. Now we're to the dragon. Because why? Because you have to think of it like this. The layers had been pulled back, and now you're at the foundation. And if you're at the foundation, because all the Halloween costumes have been taken off, It's like I think the Katushka dolls or whatever, where the dolls are on top. You get to the last tiniest doll, but even though it's so tiny, it's so compact. It's the strongest thing because you want to know why? It's not a shell of anything. It's solid to the core. And because now the shell is cracking, another layer is cracking, it's going down to the core, and now this core, they're trying to now build this to last because now there's two kingdoms. We couldn't hold on to the Most High's people. We tried that. It failed because his word said it. And because his word said it, they stood on it. And when they stood on it, they started to speak. They said a word. This is why they don't like when you say a word. This is what they hate when you say a word. Well, what's the word? Well, I totally shalom. You're speaking truth and peace. You are speaking and you are agreeing and you're testifying on everything that the Most High had said. Until all the law and the prophets are fulfilled in all the Psalms, until everything that was fulfilled, until all these things are fulfilled, we're still in the fulfillment of all these things. Not everything's been fulfilled. During this time, this is just another period of time. This is a transitionary period. Nobody wants to live in a transitionary period. I'm sorry. Whoever says they want to live in a transitionary period, not really. I'd rather live probably in my grandkids or great grandkids era. Because why? Because I know we would be a couple of generations removed from what we're doing with now. I still think about it like, well, you know what? I'm pretty thankful that I didn't have to grow up during that World War II era. That's what we always say. I'm glad I didn't have to grow up during that World War I era. I'm glad I didn't have to grow up during that Civil War era. I'm glad I never had to grow up during slavery. Crystal Smith, Ms. B, Shalom. Because why? Because nobody wants to grow up in an era in judgment. Nobody wants to grow up in an era when they're being judged or when they are falling through in terms of some sort of a chastisement or a destruction. We look at that like, ooh, that's not good, and I'm kind of glad we didn't make it. See, the thing is, for them, they love bringing up these Civil War movies. They love the antebellum era. They absolutely love it. Don't get it wrong. That's what they will invest in. Oh, well, you doing another Civil War movie? Hollywood could find it. Sorry, family. I don't know what that was. They're doing testing family, so I don't know what that is. So yeah, they're doing some maintenance in my apartment area. So sorry about that. Maintenance and inspections. So, yeah, get out of there. No, I'm going to be up in here doing what I need to do because the Most High has commanded me. So I'm in His grace and I'm walking in His supplication and I'm. They've called an airstrike with a drone. Well, family, I thought that day would come. Hallelujah! Here it is. I'm about to get got, family. Oh, Israelite wife Desiree Shalom. Lion Pride Shalom. So again, as I was on this roll before, do you understand the enemy? The enemy hates this. Enemy tries to shut us on up. Well, what about this? What about that? Do you even see how the enemy tries to move, even if there's no physical person here? That was the rapture alert. Here, let me step outside. I don't want to bump my head on that ceiling. Oh my goodness. So going back to that, the antebellum, the Civil War era, the pre-Civil War era, that's what they endear because that is the ultimate level of control that they had over us. That was it. So for them, and the way that they look at this, well, you want to know what? Well, I think, I believe, I feel that we can always perform what? Making us watch, having us look at, having us see. Oshia Red Shalom. When they were at their worst, right? That's all. Look, I love to show you all at your worst. I love to show you all when you are compliant because that's what I want you to be. I want you to be compliant. Now, the problem that we have here is now we have too many people that are educated. That compliance stuff doesn't work with a bunch of educated people. So, especially educated people that may have arms, that may actually have read the Constitution, that may have actually have served in the armed forces or in as law enforcement. All these different things. Now there's little complications because remember, that was a crack in the system. When the Civil War happened, that was a crack in the system. It wasn't for the freeing of slavery of slaves. All right, sorry, family. Sorry about that. Yep. That inspection things happen. All right. But if I can get through this. But what it showed and what it had exemplified was that really they didn't want to come over here empty-handed. And that's what it was. That's what it was. They didn't want to come over empty-handed. Oh, look, you sold us this American dream. Now, where is it? What's going on? And then you have to understand what happened was that when everybody was going west, which what a lot of our people, we tried to go west and north and everything else. Well, we don't want you here in the west. Remember, they would scare us off. Don't go that far west because you're going to run into those those Indians, those Native Americans, you're gonna run into the bows and the arrows. Because you got to remember, see, there was always some sort of a system of a control mechanism that was going on. Now, Nicole Level, shalom. Now we're seeing there's a new deterioration in this fabric, in this foundation. And now that deterioration is looking at the core. It was at the foundations. And see, the setup was, if we were talking about this, and we talk about it as a whole family. We have the videos constantly emerging, constantly coming out. My Facebook, I can at least give you at least 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe 3 or 4 dozen videos of, what's going on with us currently within the last 48 hours. Well, this had been released, well, that had been released, and this and that. Because now they can't hide it. And it was funny, I'd said this back in 2019. While I was deployed, I said, look, probably in the next 2 or 3 years, America's going to be in some real big trouble because they don't know how to address racism, because that was the foundation of America. And when you have your house on sinking sand, it's going to start getting bad. It's going to start going from bad to worse. And inevitably, the next year it did. And now here we are, and look, they don't even care anymore. Okay, there we go. Yeah, sorry, family. Bear with me. Bear with me, family. Fam, I think I actually may have to wrap this on up, or I have to come back on. All right. So with that said, family, shalom.